We are gonna chit chat a little bit about the lovely plane of the 5D collective. So it's oneness consciousness, integration of the brain, left and right mode, and all hands on deck. So let me start first. I am the woo-woo pseudoscience lady because not everybody believes in mystics, which is A-OK in my book because I believe in sciences and spirituality. Spirituality is living a life of meaning beyond the solo self, and sciences with Daniel Siegel and Bezel van der Kolk, Peter Levine, Stephen Porges, all the lovely mental health professionals that I learned from, they all point to the same thing. We can connect to each other as our mammalian heritage when we have that healthy self-worth, secure attachment, okay? So I do personal development and self-help seriously, and I am also a lovely holistic practitioner. I guess we can use that word. I don't like to use words too much, so don't use dictionaries, ask questions. And I say words to mean buzzwords, technical verbiage, all of that. I don't ascribe to any of it. I'm more like a pirate when it comes to how I create content. You know how in Pirates of the Caribbean, he says, yeah, we got rules, but they're just guidelines. Same thing goes here. So if you assume anything about the word I used, you might be no, you're probably going to be wrong. You just listen to it all and ask questions. Also, your left mode should be quiet when somebody else is talking because that would indicate to me that you know how to pause. Use your prefrontal cortex, get curious, open, accepting, and loving, and not use your implicit bias, political, religious, whatever, gender, whatever, your own emotional stuff, your karma, right? You move it to dharma. So here's where I'm an empowered person, woman, so I don't assume anything of you. And as long as my gut says, no, there's no physical threat, I'm good. Bring it on. Maladaptive child behavior, which one? Who am I dealing with today? Which part of you? And I won't be telling you anything about my attachment trauma information unless we're friends and in an actual relationship where we're dealing with each other in a way. And then I'll say, I have been learning about this. So we're going to get into that. But let me start. Again, 5D mystics know that there's no demon that possesses a person. I have clairs. I'm a channeler. I'm a tarot oracle reader. I'm an Akashic record reader. And I'm a Reiki practitioner. And there's more that's going to join my bandwagon. But this is not to make anything special. We're all generous of spirit because we're all basically inside. If you let that poor inner child come out, your magic works through you. And so you'll know that to be fearless and bold and to reclaim that power doesn't mean you're going to go being a squirrel of Cusco land. So the people who do Cusco, well, they actually want a reward every time they do anything. It seems that they think that they suffer more than other people, and I'm going to leave it alone. So the love dependence and love avoidance, the codependence, there's martyrs, superiors, and blamers, and they equate maladaptive child behavior, which means they haven't taken a look at their left mode. So they don't know about their verbal part of the brain, and they don't notice or take accountability, awareness of their emotions, and then self-regulate to say, wait, I can be in my ventral vagal state. I'm speaking to another human being. Subjective experiences mean I can differentiate and link, and you differentiate and link, and we don't have to agree on politics, religion, none of it. We can speak. That's when you know you have an intellectually open-minded and curious, again, and person who cares, by the way. So spirituality people, they live a life of meaning and connection beyond the solo self, not sometimes. The ones who don't understand that we're a big herd, they are spiritual bypassers. Like the mantles of mental health and yoga, they look pretty. No, they really just use buzzwords and tech words, and then you'll see them treat their neighbor and their boyfriend, girlfriend, they friend in ways that will be very clear to a person who does care about both yoga and mental health that they don't care. They're a teenager who thinks they're right, and there's your maladaptive child behavior who, when they get into anything, they're not there to chit-chat. They're there to prove they're right. They're going to make it all about themselves. They're going to want you to take their side because you got a 0-1-year-old who's attached, panicky, and you got a 3 who has shame, submissiveness. And basically, if you don't take their side, they're going to move to step 4. They're going to silent treatment you, and now you've become the enemy. And some people, they actually come in with a distortion if they don't know themselves at all. Okay, so let's get started with, you cannot heal trauma with the wrong people. And the wrong people are any people who are not healthy self-worth. That means people who silence you because you have a different political view than them, people who silence you because you're a different gender, people who become aggressive towards you, people who are teenager attitude is what I'm going to talk about. Cusco is what I call them, as well as potential whiners, because they're whining. I don't want to do personal development. I'm just going to go around and say that I'm doing something better. So, okay, no emotional maturity, no fun, no tangos, no restorative embodiment yet. But let me continue first with our lovely, again, Sadhguru. Thank you, Sadhguru. The problem is not with life. The problem is you have not taken charge of your mind. And yes, you cannot take charge of your mind unless you start learning how to pause it. Okay, so every person, they have a fight or an inner critic or an outer critic, and they're fighting a different battle in their own head and mind. Why? Because if their left and right don't work together, so your left is the verbal part of your brain and the right is the emotional stuff. And if you're overwhelmed by it and you ignore that you have emotions, I don't like that. That's still an emotion. Count it. Implicit bias. You can use whatever word you want, but when you have bilateral desire of integration, it means you'll be noticing. Sometimes you'll notice you're overwhelmed, numbness, that you're disconnected from your emotions. And that's the minute, if you say, I'm weird, we're all fucked up. No. You're not weird. No one's fucked up. But you might have non-bilateral integration. So you're going to want to notice, does you have window of tolerance? Do you get dissociated? Okay. So taking it seriously means you're going to work to get to the inner child. And if you have struggle, human suffering, that's the minute you know you want a good therapist. EMDR, child parts work, and somatics. Not more of a yoga instructor who doesn't tell you about good therapy or doesn't talk to you about your window of tolerance. Okay, so when people are not attachment trauma informed, I saw a really great video. This person who's online, I'll go check out the name so you can follow him. And he just shared something about how mindfulness, yoga, or it was meditation can actually exaggerate or anyways not help trauma, which I have found correct, because I find a lot of people who are in their 4D plane of distortion thinking that their clairs mean a lot and they completely ignore their third eye. In fact, some are saying don't unblock it, and I'm thinking what's new with that? But we're going to leave that again alone. Your third eye is part of your brain. It's your prefrontal cortex. You want to learn to get into the world of you. So yes, mindfulness and meditation, they activate a way to use your brain, which if you have a non-bilaterally integrated brain, and if there's overwhelming experiences from your 0-1-year-old attached panicky, 3 to 7 shame submissive, they're going to be pretty overwhelming. So you'll notice it. You'll notice it because you'll get really uncomfortable. And that's why it's important for you not to try harder, but to learn about psychoeducation. And the good psychoeducators are online. In fact, I like Dr. Daniel Fox, for example. You can find him on YouTube. And Patrick Tiahan, childhood trauma survivor, healed and healing. Good therapists. Go to the therapist. Daniel Siegel, and then we have Daniel is for, I don't know if he does still take clients, but he has Mindsight Institute, a lot of great information there. And I'm trying to think of other names. The names of the communities that I'm going to say you can learn practical information are the ones that I mentioned. That can be helpful. As for holistic, those of us over here, put us on the side. We're great, but you want to learn about the psychoeducation. I have a buttload of it because I continue my education, because I take seriously supporting people on personal development and self-help, which means I know to know you need to know how a human is made, and I do. Now that I'm completely informed, but I'm going to keep getting informed. Okay, so the people who don't know how to use inner growth, they have this inner critic going on, and we don't know if they're taking those emotional skills and putting them into practice. So as long as your left and right modes of the brain are not your friends, and there's no nervous system self-regulation skills at hand, so if you don't know how to self-regulate yourself and get yourself back to your ventral vagal nervous system, means you don't know how to recalibrate your emotions. Say, okay, no need to get all pissy in my sympathetic or my dorsal vagal. Okay, so you know how to bring yourself back to your happy spot. Okay. And that means I'll just get to be me all the time, and have fun like a 3-year-old is what I get to do out there. It's really fun. Okay, so the many masks of one's inner child, they can only unfold when you open your heart to yourself. That's with self-love and compassion. Again, remember, true spirituality is living a life of meaning and connection beyond the solo self. I'm lucky because I have a twin, so for me it's automatic. And I have a herd, human herd. and I love humanity and all animals and da 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 da. Okay, so in my heart, it's compersion. That's why for the solo polyamory community, when you're a securely attached person, you easily say you are one of a kind. Nobody can be you, and I know it to be true because you have your name. And really, if I look around, even if you had a twin, I have a twin, I know that there's not a replica of you. When a person can welcome it, they're not a superhero fighting a supervillain. They don't need a prize to be special. They know special means their human name. From the 0 1 year old to the 3 to 7 to the 11 12 to the 14 15 16 to the free. So all your charges, all your child parts, you are your present adult self. You know your past, you know how to regulate. Okay, so when you're whole, like Patrick Tiahan shares, you become kind, and that's because you're integrated. And that means that you know how to differentiate and link. So you know how to say no with the ventral vagal and understand your emotions and other people's emotions, and you don't get overwhelmed. And there's no shame of, I did something wrong. When you're having splinters or ruptures, you don't feel ashamed of yourself like you did something wrong. Feeling, I didn't talk about thinking. It's here. So you know I can stand up and be proud to be me. I don't need to insult another person. I don't need to get aggressive. I don't need to get into my sympathetic, which would be projecting. And that's why the only way people heal trauma, once they're on a good journey with a good therapist and or they're good at self-awareness, emotional awareness, is when they meet healthy self-worth people, because we don't bullshit you. And we won't say yes or no in a way of talking down or above you. We will actually look straight at you, and you will know that because your nervous system. So eventually you're going to calibrate, and I'm going to calibrate, and you're going to notice that you can expand and be yourself, because I'm a safe haven, secure base. Because I regulate to ventral vagal. I'm speaking to you with respect, love, acceptance, and I'm a secure base. I like to explore life with you too, whatever we're talking about. Okay, so those are the 5D relationships, by the way. And therefore, those masks, that inner child, can come forth. You can be your authentic self, which is what IHP is all about, is helping those who want to be the authentic self of you. And I'm reading some copy. That's why you see me looking down. So having an open heart to life, connecting to you, the self of you, becoming a whole self and others, and knowing that you want to return to your baseline ventral vagal nervous system mammalian heritage. And that if that is uncomfortable, then we know we want good therapists for that childhood trauma doesn't get deleted. You can only work with it to minimize it. And you can, I believe that in time, with the right people, again, you can actually soften it to the extent of whenever you're ready, you'll know. So when people have healed completely from their childhood trauma, they know how to share that story. And they will tell you about how awesome relationships are and how they're able to not be on the lookout behind them, that hypervigilance and a lot of other things that happen. Okay, so the many masks again of one's inner child can only unfold when you open your heart to yourself, to self-love and compassion, and when you have a support, a family network, a friend network, a relationship network of those who are unconditionally loving. They're their true selves, and they also know how to be that secure attachment within themselves, okay? And therefore, self-worth, self-empowerment, true spirituality people, securely attached, again, and talking to you. So they know how to have healthy conflict. 5D relationships support us to live the best life ever because you get to your inner and outer well-being with integration of the brain. With safe relationships, because you can just be yourself, and the ones who will call you out on that maladaptive child behavior, but who can work with you if you have catastrophizing or split thinking or the black and white thinking. So if you have a favorite person, and I use that word, where a lot of us have, I have a bunch of favorite people. But if I think of favorite people that I know have BPD, I'm now happy that I'm updated and updating all that I need to know of how to be able to support with that core content and the surface content. Because my attachment trauma courses, they focus on all aspects. MDID is pretty straightforward, but I hadn't had a good download on BPD, which now I do, and it's helpful because I, again, understand that there are so many people who don't realize they don't have that inner family critic system in the forefront. So it doesn't mean that they're going to, but some people will work with their emotions when they're in a good relationship because they care to keep the connection going. So I also know that people who take their own relationships seriously, they're going to work with somebody who's saying, let's talk about it. Okay. And so we take healing trauma here at IHP very seriously. And the spirituality journey, again, it's living a life of meaning and connection beyond the solo self. So we create a network for people who can be themselves and not in a way of pointing a finger, and we don't use and weaponize words. So we don't do 3D or 4D chit chat. Those consciousness people have their whatever, leave it alone. They're spiritual bypasser people, leave it alone. Mantles of mental health, again, leave it alone. And the mantles of yoga, they're going to be so straightforward if you're open to your true self, because you'll notice immediately. And that happens in time as you hang out with healthy self-worth people. Oh, we'll let you know. But that means you hear. If I say love dependent, love avoidant, we're not casting stones, we're identifying the codependent type behavior that's projecting. Okay, so there's a fine line when people are weaponizing psych education. Even here, it's not, you want to say you're weaponizing it. That's not how that works. But being able to say, my gut, okay, I'm pretty sure this word is being used in a way I don't like it, and in your head you pause and you think, okay, I'm just going to leave it alone, because why would I bother engaging in something that doesn't feel expansive? So feeling expanded, you'll know when people are listening to you because of that, because you'll feel welcome, versus somebody who's already rejecting you, quote unquote, who's having some resistance. And again, it's not protection, it's that they have some shit going on inside of them, has nothing to do with you. You don't have to make it about you. So that's the part of pausing and not making it about you, saying I don't want to engage with the energy, because whatever it is just doesn't feel expansive right now. You know what, I'm going to pause and leave it alone, and then you come back at it again another day, for example. But yeah, people who weaponize psych educational stuff and words, they're all over the place, also projecting their maladaptive child codependent behaviors, because the martyrs superiors and the blamers, they try to tell each other how to live life. So 5D relationships, they're safe because we have emotional accountability, awareness, self-regulation, and therefore we're going to bring to you a functional adult love language, which allows our direct communication to discuss healthy conflict, anything. And above all, we know differentiation and linkage. This I learned from Daniel Siegel. So I'm Maria, you're your name, and we don't have to be both polyamory, for example. You can be monoamory and I'm polyamory. And you will be able to accept that, because if you have healthy self-worth, that's the point. You know that you're one of a kind in here, not only here. Here, you know that, and that's why you know how to chit-chat about what goes on in the lovely brain. So it means you be you, differentiation and linkage, and I be me. And we come together and we work it out. Like the lovely Beatles song, we can work it out, right? Life is very short and there's no time for fussing and fighting, my friend. And I actually wanted to read a little bit of the lyrics, because it amazed me at how they don't even realize that they're talking about what I now know of as when you can pause and reflect on your own thoughts and then have a conversation, and to be able to say somebody has a different opinion than me, right? Okay. Try to see it my way. Do I have to keep on talking till I can't go on while you see it your way? Run the risk of knowing that our love may soon be gone. Okay, well, obviously they're having a debate or discussion. And think of what you're saying. You can get it wrong and still you think that it's all right. Okay, so if there's right or wrong in your brain, that's a maladaptive child. When you're talking to somebody as a differentiated self, it's I have opinions and feelings, and I'm sharing with another person who also has opinions and feelings. That's it. And now we're trying to see if we can work it out, which we can, because we're not going to say you have to be thinking and feeling like I think and feel. Those are non-differentiated people. Differentiated means my name's Maria, I think and feel, you think and feel. And I'm talking about one-to-one and intimate relationships and just relationships, okay? So just get it, not about societal stuff. All that is for people who are making debates on other stuff. I believe any person in a role should be able to do this, by the way, because they should be emotionally mature. And when they're not, I can tell, because they don't know how to negotiate, arbitrate. They don't know how to stay in their ventral vagal, and you can tell when somebody's in their sympathetic and when they're an adaptive child. So thinking of what you're saying, you would want to think of it, but you want to calm yourself. And actually what you want to also do is be comfortable with being able to use all the words in the book, but I'm going to be a person on the other end. So I'm going to make it comfortable for you, because I'm not going to correct the words you use. I'm going to continue talking to you. If I have a question about a word you're using, I will ask you, and I can figure out if we're using different words, because that's what happens when you're pausing and you're welcoming those differences, because that's a tango, that's a love language tango that happens with any of the people who like to talk to each other. Try to see it my way. Only time will tell. Okay, so if I'm right or wrong, this is definitely the maladaptive child and people who stay teenagers, not what we are. We don't do right or wrong. We do just try to see it my way. I'm going to try and see it your way. And then we can see how to bring each other to the middle. In fact, I won't keep reading it because this is where we have maladaptive child patterns where people, they have a discussion. One thinks they're right, the other thinks they're right, and they don't actually work together. So again, the reason you cannot heal trauma with the wrong people is that the wrong people will bring you a song like that and then they'll think, well, I was right and you were wrong, you know. And so as long as you have people that are in that book, they're not moving towards differentiation and linkage, and they're whole 1 year old who can freely love and say, I'm special, you're special. We don't need a superhero cape, we don't need anything humongous. We are safe haven, secure bases, because we know how to chit chat about everything, but we also know how to feel. So we know how to be in here, and we know if there's need for more support. Okay, so it's very important to notice a person who's healing their trauma will know, I have areas where I know I want to pause. I'm going to talk to you about it, not tell you how you have to behave. No, if anyone is correcting how you should behave in a way of saying, I'm reclaiming my power, let them reclaim their power. But that is a martyr superior blamer, because they have used mannerisms of a teenager, again, Cusco, or squirrel, which also tells me love dependent or love avoidant. If you're a grown, emotionally aware person, at the very least, you'll know how to say, okay, I'm uncomfortable. Okay, you know what? My brain thinks a lot of things when I go to sleep at night because I have still that internal family system and I'm still working with core. My core self has shame still in it, blame, guilt, fault. I still have an inner child that is living within me. Okay, so we want to support people to heal their trauma. I know that as a person who has healthy self worth, I don't allow the love dependent or the love avoidant to project. Then they recalibrate easily because I don't dismiss them. I don't dismiss what they're feeling. I just know what I will be able to give in a relationship and what I won't. And so that's all this is I can't satisfy your emotional needs. I can't recalibrate your suffering every time it's up, because that's where I'm not going to actively be able to. And so it's we'll save that for another episode. But in the meantime, I love that we can create a system here for people who are healing trauma and for people who are healthy self-worth. So 5D mystics and not. Again, woo-woo, pseudoscience, because I bring human, spiritual, and spirituality elements together. But I do so seriously in the effort to support each other. And those who have secure attachment, you can all easily get here. It's the ones who have not securely attached, the ones who have had emotional neglect and abuse, that need more people to be able and say, I don't have no fucking superhero cape. There's no supervillain. There's nobody who needs rescuing. That's egoic, and it's spiritual bypassers, and it's mantles of mental health. We're here as a herd with good academics who have been building research year after year after year. Holistic also has its, beautiful equation, and that's why spirituality and science is the ones who are 5D. They're bringing them together and say, okay, the mind is an important instrument, and to understand the mind, you're going to need to understand the body, because they're together. Divine feminine, divine masculine, and your masculine is what I call the left, because it breaks things down, wants to be right and wrong. And the right, I call it the feminine. She brings up all that is here. But if you don't know how to handle your window of emotions, you're going to notice if you feel uncomfortable with emotions. Okay, so we'll do a part 2 at some other point throughout the day. In the meantime, again, welcome aboard. Like, subscribe, share. There's Ask Maria paid subscription-based model content on the audio version. We'll have it for membership when we get to 1K here. Have a wonderful day.